Rosie Rewired is for women in tech already in the room, and for every girl hoping there is a seat for her. We talk honestly about work, wins, friction, and the future. No rose-colored myths, just rosy-colored truth. The music you are hearing is Seduction of Eve by Emma Langford, which carries its own story about choice, power, and consequence, something most of us recognize. Community is how we got here, and honest conversation is how we leave the door open for the next generation. Together, we can do it. Hello, Aisling. How are you today?
I'm great now that I'm here talking to you. Yeah, absolutely perfect.
Well, thank you for
How are
joining
you?
us today. And we'll start with a couple of icebreakers to just sort of get us rolling. And what's a guilty pleasure that you secretly love?
I probably have more than I'm willing to admit, but the one thing I really love doing is puzzle apps, block puzzles and things like untying ropes and all those cheesy games. I love them. They're the way my brain shut down at the end of the day because I kind
I
of need my brain to
agree.
be doing something to be able to relax.
I know, and they always say don't do that, but I feel so much more relaxed when I do. So
Yeah, best thinking.
exactly, right. Actually, I do my best thinking in the shower, but we won't go into that. But if you could have lunch with anyone alive, living, dead, or alive and living, that was smart, who would it be?
So I'm a big art nerd. So my degree is actually in the history of art and architecture, and then my master's is in something else, but it's like analysis. But so art is a big part of my life. So probably it would be someone like Dorothea Tanning. I'm a big surrealist fan. I wrote my first dissertation on surrealism and female identity and how it's affected by the relationships within the art world on their own artworks and output. So yeah, Dorothea Tanning is probably one of my secret want to have dinner with. I want to have a glass of wine with and figure out how she did it and what she was thinking. And because she's one artist. I saw an exhibition in Tate not too long ago. I'd say not too long ago, it was a few years ago. It was pre-COVID. We used that as a benchmark.
Yeah.
And it was one of the most moving experiences I've ever had. I love art, but it rarely brings me to tears. But something about moving through her life's work, it brought me to that place. And yeah, if someone can do that to me with their paintings, I want to know who they are as a real person.
Exactly. It's funny, I have a dual degree in fine art and government, so we share the same sort of
Oh, cool.
having left, right brain and using them in different ways. So, all right, the last one is, if your life were a playlist, what would the first song be?
The first thing that came to mind was Under Pressure, David Bowie and Cream. Because it constantly feels like I have this great force of like urgency that things have to be done now because you never know what's going to happen around the corner. Or I have this like, once I have a good idea or I have something that I think could be a good idea, I have to work it out, test it and see if it is. And then I can very quickly drop it if it's a bad idea. But there's a sense of urgency. So probably, Under Pressure is sort of the theme tune in my head.
Okay. Well, that's great. And that actually leads us right into talking about who you are and what you do, because you are formerly of two different organizations, heads of that. And one is Fertally and the other one is the Green Tech HQ. And I have to say, I was enamored with both of them. And the fact that it's one woman doing both just makes me even happier. So could you maybe tell us a little bit about both of them?
Yeah, so I've actually got a couple of hats on the day in one time. A few years ago, I started Fertally because I'm a serial entrepreneur and I like to find problems and try and find solutions to fix them. And then I'm also a part of the team in Green Tech HQ here in Enniscorthy in Wexford. We are a centre of expertise in business innovation and sustainability. I've got two very different roles there. And then I have a few side projects as well. Like I've got Courage Studios, which is a women's focused MVP building group. So it's very early grassroots stages where we're seeing a few ideas and how seeing if we as a collective or a coven, because Cora is actually the Irish word for cauldron. So you can imagine all those women with their individual talents, put them into a pot and allowing ideas to, become
Bubble up.
real. Exactly. So I wear different hats at different times. But I founded Fertally a few years ago because I finished a 15-year journey of infertility. only because I found my own research that doctors weren't aware of at the time that found a solution for my problem. Now, there was a little bit of luck involved, possibly in timing, but that particular protocol has ever been provided me. Doctors had never heard of it. And it was a simple switch in medications and timings, and it worked straight away. And I thought, okay, this is a problem. I couldn't find this for 15 years. How many other women out there are going through the same thing? So I developed, first of all, I will say I didn't go straight into it. I taught myself some Python, did a few courses online because I had some front-end experience in terms of HTML stuff, but no programming understanding. So I did a few courses first, built some very basic parts, and then slowly but surely built up a research simplification tool. So I went through over 500,000 medical records, not, didn't read each one or anything like that, but I collated them, tagged them, and I have them in a database now that is accessible through simple search functions and chatbots through the platform Fertally. And the next stage of that is identifying and finding ways to link biomarker research and real-time tracking data so that a more speedy solution to fertility challenges can be found for people. And in the process of building that, I was building that actually in the desks here in Green Deck. I was renting one of the desks here in the open office space, and I got to know everyone here. And then I saw that they were looking for a head of marketing and AI, and then I applied, went through the interview process, and they were like, "Yes, please." So I'm here now as well. So, but I think that is a roundabout way of explaining where I am.
I love it. The Fertily is just, I mean, I had infertility issues of my own, so like that's near and dear. And to know that there's something out there that's actively researching is just so fabulous. So thank you for doing that.
Like there is not enough, but my aim is to at least bring together the fragmented parts that do exist and just make them a bit quicker, a bit more efficient, and hopefully solve some long-term problems for women.
So why do you think that there's not a lot of research?
Well, there's loads of reports out there published about percentages of research going into women-specific conditions and symptoms, and the fact that women are much more complex. We have much more fluctuations daily, weekly, and monthly, and again, in terms of life cycles, more than men. So traditionally, med research has been looking at men as the base, the starting point, because it's a lot more of a stagnant data pool to be spotting differences. So it's say, so women traditionally haven't been researched. Again, there's a lot of bias questions in there, a lot of prioritization questions. And there's a lot of people who've done a lot more research on that area than I have. There is information out there. People are creating research. They are doing trials, but it's not to the extent it should be. But it is there. So I want to at least make it accessible and findable by both patients and doctors.
Right. Yes. I still find it interesting that they only ever crash test dummies that are male. So, it's just the age-old issue. But Fertally works in this like really sort of emotional, personal space because, we're, as a woman, we're not sort of supposed to talk about this thing that's considered a failure. So how are you using AI to really delve into that?
Well, the first thing is to use it transparently, to be absolutely upfront about it. So a lot of what I've built so far is based off, there's a lot of traditional coding in there just to build up the database and to organize all the functions of the platform as it is currently and also the next stage. Well, AI does play a big part in this, for example, simplification. So I have a tool there that when you are reading an article, you can read abstract, full text, or you can have it simplified into bullet points or into small paragraphs, or, remove some terms that might be confusing to give you a quick overview. So transparency is a big thing. So obviously, it's whenever that's being used, it's very clearly disclaimed that AI has created this. Do double check it, read the full article, or at least send the full article and the summarization to anyone you're sharing it with. So I think AI has a great place in making difficult things more accessible, but also we have to be honest about how it's happening and show how it's happening, because it's a fantastic tool that not only is added on to things, but is infrastructural in things like, for example, Fertally and other new software that is being developed at the moment. AI is part of its core nature. So I think you have to realize that. And with anything, we have to make sure that it's correct. I've gone through a year and a half of checking and verifying a number of the records. I've only selected from 500,000 papers and trials from peer-reviewed journals and publications. I have whittled it down for the next test run to 25,000 core articles that have shown to be the most valuable through the previous tests.
So from 500,000 to 25,000
Yeah, I
is
thought people go through them
you'd
and
never be
value
able
rate
to
them
do
and
that. Oh, wait a minute. You did that through AI or you had people doing
both.
it?
So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I have both. I wanted to make sure that
All
whatever
right.
is going out there is perfect and it is accurate and it represents the original research properly.
Okay. That's amazing. So,
To a certain extent, I haven't gone through everything personally, but yeah,
right, right.
we're
No,
doing the
but
very
it's
best.
still, so, with AI, I constantly worry about not putting the proper guardrails in place. And so if we don't think about how we're using it and how it's using the data that it has access to,
Mhm.
then we sort of find ourselves in the Wild West. So it's just fascinating that you had humans and AI going through all of these papers and then sort of comparing them. And what this is probably a question I didn't prepare you to ask, but did you notice any differences in the human versus AI versions? Like, were there more errors or more sort of intuitiveness that the human brings versus the AI into the findings that when they did the abstracts?
Well, see, the abstracts actually are quite literally what the abstracts are in the original papers. So they're quite simple. There's no changes in there
Okay.
whatsoever. They are sort of truncated where necessary for too
Hmm.
long. But when it comes to the AI translations, what I did was build up a simple rating matrix and a feedback loop. So basically, the AI was learning from itself. So anyone I had testing, it would say, this doesn't sound quite accurate because this mentions 3 months, but this actually, papers are actually more 3 months and 2 weeks in some cases. And then that would go back into it. So it's more sort of
Okay.
fine tuning it that way.
Yep.
So there wasn't necessarily, I didn't do an AI test and a human test. It's more that I got human and AI, kept humans in the loop with AI the
In
whole
the
time.
loop.
So yeah,
Yeah.
we can keep it all
Okay.
improving constantly.
So I also learned that you have a background in psychoanalysis, and I wondered how that impacts either of the hats. Well, you wear many hats, so you can pick any hat that it might impact.
Well, I suppose, yeah, it was very much a theoretical master's I did, but I've always been fascinated by psychoanalysis. And it also played in very much into my love of art and surrealism and sort of the whole movement at the
Hmm.
time that was sort of concurring with it. But I found out an awful lot more than I expected when I started my master's. So I suppose the key areas I really focus on when it comes to designing systems from that period of learning is that I make sure that there is space and for containment and to realize that the viewer or the person interpreting the information they're reading on a website or through an app is a person with emotions or going to have responses to things. So that, for
Hmm.
example, if you're getting a lot of heavy data, you want to make sure that you're giving space afterwards, a little bit of rest or reprieve, whether it's physical white space in the page or there's just some other area of content that's a bit easier to absorb. It's about realizing that you have to keep that sort of cognitive load a bit lighter at times. And then when it gets intense, you
Yeah.
have to make sure that the pacing's correct. And that the colors, the formats, the fonts, everything's accessible. And it makes the information, when it's difficult to read, really physically easy to understand.
You are like the goddess of AI. You should be creating
God,
all
no.
of the AI prompts that we use. But this is really important because you're taking into account how AI is being received by the human, not only just used by the human. So I think that's a very different outlook on how to use and program and, have it output data.
I think
So,
I'm lucky that I had a few businesses. I had a food business and I had a marketing agency and I was doing a lot of web design work. So I got to learn very quickly about how humans interact with digital spaces. One of my areas of research before all this was figuring out what the sort of the psychological relationship between digital and human was and where frustrations became apparent. So if it's in terms of UX and how it looks in the page and how it operates and the UI, how it interact. If the button is, if the
mhm,
haptic feedback is too much, it's going to annoy someone. So all those little areas I got to experience through that, I think I'm trying to apply here. And you know yourself, if you go through a GPT, you're talking to, say, ChatGPT, you're talking to Perplexity or Claude, and you forget where you are, you go and do something, you come back, and there's a wall of text. And you're like, where
mhm,
did I finish off? Like, that is one of the bugbears that annoys me about working with chatbots. That there's
yep.
no, like, you can't just like go say, bring me back to 5 minutes before I left, give me a quick catch. You can say it, but it's just, you come back to this wall of text. And that's the last thing I want to happen with Fertally anyway. I want to make sure that it's always approachable and welcoming to come back to and understand more about what's going on.
Okay, well, I love your outlook on that. So we've talked mostly about Fertally, and we have not talked really much about what you're doing for sustainable space, green space, green space, but online and in marketing. So
Yeah.
do you want to give us a little primer on that?
Yeah, no, I joined the team towards the end of last year. And so the marketing is a pretty traditional marketing in a lot of ways. I bring kind of a unique perspective because I look at it from a visual communications and psychological meaning and interpretation and how the information is digested. And by people who are receiving it and making sure it's in comfortable chunks. Like with data, sometimes you have to chunk information, even if it's textual or visual. And then in terms of AI, so it's small incremental changes. We're using AI where it's appropriate, realizing where it's not appropriate and wasteful. And I'm also starting actually in March a new AI course through Green Tech. So just the fundamental tools that are out there, giving people, like I've seen a lot of graphics recently on LinkedIn and things, you see where the very small percentage of people who are actually using AI and who are using it in a paid tier and who are using it for business, and reduce it down to smaller and smaller increments. So I'm trying to figure out if I can help some people here in the southeast of Ireland who want to know more about AI, who have heard of these tools, but don't know how to approach them on those first few steps into it with practical hands-on workshops. So it'll be a case of workshop 1 is all about talking to ChatGPT, Claude, Microsoft Copilot, when each is the most appropriate or most useful. So most people will have one account or maybe 2. And then we're going to work into agents, workflows, and then building things with and vibe coding with AI as well.
Wow.
So so hopefully with each workshop, people will come away.
Where should people look to find your courses though? Because this is
it's at greentechhq.ie.com/AI-workshop.
Okay. Or your LinkedIn, we can find you
on
at
LinkedIn.
Aisling Mooney.
Absolutely. You can pop on LinkedIn or just send me a message. I'll very quickly then erase it. But it's all hands-on, come away with something practical you can use the next day.
Okay. And when are you writing your book?
I don't know. I did actually write a book once. It was one of my challenges. I do something that scares me every year. One year I was going to write a novel. I sent it to like 20 publishers and they all said no. So I have written a book, just nobody wants to read it. But it's nothing to do with AI.
I want to read about your life and your thoughts and theories on how to use it well. So I'm fascinated by the work you've been doing. So we've sort of touched on a few things. Is there something that I've missed that you wanted to talk about or something that people should know about you?
No, I think I've said quite too much. We'll find out. But no, if anyone has any questions or wants to reach out, I'm always willing to make new connections. And I have a thing with LinkedIn as well. And if I connect with someone on LinkedIn, I like to have a conversation digitally, if not in person, if it's not possible. So if anyone wants to reach out and have a chat, I'm always very welcome and open to do so.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to reach out to you again on LinkedIn because I don't know about what's the digital chat that you're having. Is that just DMs?
But there's actually, I prefer to have a recorded, not a recorded one, obviously, not a podcast, but maybe just a Teams meeting or a Google Meet and have a virtual cup of coffee.
Okay.
So I like to get to know people because I think I like to connect dots when it comes to data and fertility research, whether it comes to people and information and how to connect them best. But I think we're strongest when we're connected together and we know each other's opportunities and challenges and we can help each other that way. So I think conversation is underutilized.
I completely agree. Gosh, you really are like my new favorite person. I love everything you're saying. So
I'll be blushing.
For Fertally, how can people utilize that tool if they want to? Like for if a woman's listening now and she's going through it, how can she?
It's in the process of changing over because I've gotten to the point now where I'm comfortable letting it out into the wild. It's gone through a few testing phases, but it probably will be in testing phases until forever if I keep thinking that way. So, but you can sign up to have early access through fertally.com. And then very soon the fertally.com website will be changing over to the full platform. And the full stage 2 platform. And then there's a stage 3 and stage 4 over the next 18 months as well.
Okay. Fabulous. Well, again, Aisling, you're just amazing. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much.
And I feel like there might have to be a second episode because I think you have a lot more to say than we've been able to cover in this short 20 minutes. So
I have a lot to say, especially with wine in my hand.
All right, great. Let's do that. I'm much more relaxed when I have a glass of wine in my hand too, so that is awkward.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. All right, well, thank you so much, and it was great to have you on Rosie Rewired.
Well, thank you so much.
But I wonder now and then if things just might have been the same, if I were happy never to break that glass ceiling.
Thank you for joining us today. As you listen to Emma Langford, here are a few other women who have broken the glass ceiling and chosen to hold the door open behind them. This is Rosie Rewired, and together we can do it.
And I don't mind, no, I don't mind. I'm just trying to find my peace of mind.